I'm retired Battalion Chief Larry Cockman, Chairman of the Greensboro Fire Department History Book Committee. The American Fire Service is rich in tradition and culture. A firefighter's life is filled with many emotional highs and lows. Stories of major fires, national disasters, medical calls, firehouse living, and family life are often verbally shared from one generation to another. Many times these stories are lost forever when a firefighter passes away. In an effort to preserve these stories, in 2019, the Greensboro Fire Department History Book Committee launched a new program of recording audio-video of our retirees' lives. These stories will be shared on our website, gfhbc.org. In 2020, we did not record because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Please listen as these firefighters share their life experiences with all of us.
This is Kathy Swiderski. I worked for the Greensboro Fire Department for 25 years, and I retired as a driver. You asked me where I'm from, and I am from Syracuse, New York. And why did I come down here? I wanted to be where it was warm. And I just couldn't handle the snow anymore and came down here and found a job at the Greensboro Coliseum. And from the Coliseum, I became a firefighter. Prior to becoming a firefighter, I was working at Lowe's hardware store. And I had to decide, did I want to stay there? Did I still want to work at the Coliseum? Because I was working both jobs. And I used to run the Coliseum stairs with my backpack on and run all the way up to the top and run back down. And there's some firefighters had come up to me and approached me and said, hey, would you like to become a firefighter? And I said, well, you know, we talked about what it was involved and then having to fill out the 8-page application. And that was pretty intimidating just to fill that out, but it got you to think, this is what I want to do. Some of the things that I had to do before I became a firefighter was, I was in pretty good shape because, like I said, I was running the Coliseum stairs. But when you found out what the actual test was to become a firefighter, I've never touched half of that equipment. So I had to learn some of the techniques that were involved in becoming a firefighter. And in the process, you know, you had to build up certain muscles you haven't used before. And that was, you know, trying to learn how to do that and find the skill and technique. In my training class, we had, I'm thinking it's 24, and they said that look to your left, look to your right. Somebody will be missing by the time you go to graduate. And we were the first ones to have a whole graduating class.
Oh, that's good.
I was in the 43rd recruit class, and I was with Wendy Wagner, who is now Wendy Cheek, and Jim Robinson was in my class, and Alex Gossett, and Dan Laszlo, and I don't want to forget somebody, but that's some of them. And some of the things that I have found out with working with them is that we were all struggling in our own way. But I always felt it was me that was struggling and not them. So I remember Tim Boone and I were in the smoke lab and we had to change out our air packs. And man, did we struggle on that one. So I'll tell you, that's one of the biggest, hottest days in our recruit training. My feelings once I got into training, and we found a study group. And the study group was really important for us to continue to keep going through the tests, making it through every single test and passing. And without that group, I don't think I would have made it. My first station that I was assigned to was at Station 1, on Engine 2. And my captain was Captain Ray, Sid Ray. What I remember about Captain Ray was he was a little anxiety of me and him. And he brought me into the room one day and he said, "Kathy, I just don't know how to treat you because you're a girl." And I said, "I want you to treat me like you do all the rookie firefighters that come on your shift." And from that point on, it felt like the ice was broken. The people that worked with me as firefighters, we were all rookies together, was Dan Laszlo and Tim Boone, and Wendy was on another shift, so at Station 1. And we all had some little funny things go on. My nickname came from back up in New York. My nickname was Swish because I played so much basketball when I was there. They asked me what I wanted to be called, and so a lot of people still to this day call me Swish. So, you know, there's a little game that the firefighters do. We prank each other and we play. One time at Station 1, we were having a little hose fun test and everybody was getting water spilled all over them and it came into a tug of war and we had a little minor accident with somebody's hand. But, you know, that happens. And also I remember you open up the bathroom door and you go to walk out and get a big huge cup of flour sitting on you. That's always fun. Or in your bed. Was the union active? Yes, it was. And for the longest time I didn't feel it, I needed it. And I talked to a member and he said, "Well, Kathy, now that you're a driver, you might think about joining." And I still didn't join, but my last 2 years of being a driver, I decided to join to see what it was all about and the camaraderie, and now I'm very active in the union now, still. Being a driver on the Greensboro Fire Department was one of the hardest things I ever did. It took me 4 tries, but I knew I wanted to be a driver. And perseverance pays off. And I kept trying and trying, and I missed it by 7/10 of a point one time. The next time, I hit the cones, took myself right out of it. And that last time, such a feeling, knowing that you are a driver and you're going to represent the department and be a safe driver. I never had an accident, and I'm very proud about that. So at the fire department, we all eat together, but I was cooking one day and the guys were, "Oh, I don't want to eat no tuna casserole. I don't want no chicken casserole. That's a bunch of bull," you know? And so I cooked it anyways because it was my cook day and I'm gonna cook it. So we ate, everybody ate together, and they all got up off the table and took it and threw it all in the garbage. And that was the last time that I cooked for anybody. So as a firefighter, we all sit at the table and eat together and eat our meals together. And I think what that does is it brings people to speak a little more freely about what's going on in your life, and you're able to share things at the table where if you're sitting at the living room watching TV, you're not going to be talking. So eating together is very good for everybody because it keeps you grounded, it keeps you being able to talk about certain things that are bothering you, or, you know, coming up with conclusions of things that have been festering. So when I first came on, we all slept in a big room together, and you know, you get toilet paper flying through the air, or you get your bed shaken, or but some of the newer stations we had cubicles, and to me, I enjoyed the cubicle. That was kind of like my break away from everybody when things started to get a little bit fighting or bickering, or somebody else was doing something that you didn't really want to get involved in. You kind of was like your safe haven. And I always would go on to knock on people's doors and, you know, in their cubicles, and just go and talk to them if I wanted to. And you could have sometimes you can have a little better conversation with just the two of you than in a big room. What firefighters I feel are doing now is on their telephones, wanting to know the latest and greatest that's going on, or the communication. I remember before it was all pagers, and you know, if you were a volunteer, you just got paged out. But nowadays there's so much on those phones, you gotta keep up with them cell phones, and I think that's their lives now. When a retired firefighter would come to our stations, we always wanted to greet them and let them know that they were a part of us, because they always had a little story to tell us of something that happened to them during their career and what's going on now. And when I go back to the stations, I look around to see who I know, to see if I know anybody, which it's starting to get to that point where I don't have it. But I do frequent different stations a lot. When I go to a station now, it's different for me, because I'm going there for a purpose. I help firefighters with their retirement accounts and with their paychecks. I like to teach firefighters how to prepare for their future, even though they don't want to think about it. But I'm there usually to teach a class, and they're like, you know, they're usually happy to see me. Some will run away because they don't want to know what I'm going to teach. But when I go back to a station, that's what I'm usually going back for. So I'm really accepted in a different way, I think, because I'm there to give them some motherly advice. One of the first calls that I remember from Station 1 was the Cone Mills big cotton balls, is what I call them, the cotton rolls. And we would have to roll those out and spray them down. When we come back, we had cotton all over us and everything. And we just, you know, you just had to stay there and keep rolling out each one because they were all smoldering. In my career, we ran medical calls. And I never forget the couple that I ran at Station 52. We had responded to the highway, and we came across a very bad accident where bodies were laying all over the highway. And we found out that they were at a bachelor party, and they were coming back home, and they were all drunk, and we found them up in the woods and laying on 40, and they had to close the whole highway down. And that one sticks out in my memories as one of the biggest ones. My life as a firefighter was probably different than some. And now when you have time to reflect on it, you're like, how are people going to accept a woman in the fire department? I felt like I always had to one-up everybody. I always had to be better because I wanted to be accepted. And people would look down at you and say, you don't belong here. You would also get a hire back and be told, go work at this station. So you get there and all the guys are there and saying, you're not staying here, you're a female. You cannot be at this station. And I would get a phone call and say, we need you to go work another station. So, you know, you go and you work that station, but it still hurts you that they can't accept you for that one day. And that happened many more times than people would realize. You know, you're also told that, you know, you got to prove yourself day in and day out. You can't be a driver. You know, there's no women drivers. And having people help you on the drill ground or at your station to get you to become a driver, that was hard too. So like I said earlier, a lot of times that I found, because of the many times that I had failed, I didn't want to see other people fail. So everything that I knew, I would pass along, because you're only as good as the worst person on your crew. And so I always feel like you can be good if you have people that are helping you be good. And so that's why I always try to help people out and like teach my program that I said about the retirement stuff. And that's my story. As I came on the line and started to get my name out there a little bit, there was a couple captains that helped me along the way. One of them now is Chief Church. He was my greatest confidant. And Chief Daniel Laszlo, he was there. And Chief Church's father, Gary Church, was the first one to really say, come on, you're going to learn how to drive, and just get behind the wheel and let's go. And, you know, gave you that confidence. And Captain Hoover was my captain later on. And he, you know, we had been firefighters together, and he was my driver at one time, and so he helped me a lot too. So my proudest moment was probably being able to let my father wear my t-shirts and my sweatshirts, because he was so proud of me and what I did. And my mother could never understand why I would want to do that. And she didn't tell me till later on that she was always scared, because when she was little, they had a fire in their house, and my grandmother had pulled her out at the last second before there was a huge fire. And I never knew that until later on. Now my mom has passed, but I still, that's in me, and my father has always been right there waiting for me and proud of me. So that would be my proudest moment. I'll tell you how I feel about when you see death, that they're going home to the Lord, and that's where they're supposed to be at that time. But I will tell you my last conversation that I had with Elamine. I see it clearly every day. But we were talking, and he said to me, Kathy, I got a little something on my leg, and I'm going to go tomorrow to the doctor's. And I said to him, El, I would leave work right now and get an appointment and get in there. So a lot of times people have pictures of El in their stations or that, and all I see is his bright face. He was like me. We struggled becoming drivers, and he made it, and he was always so happy. So when you see death, you also see happiness. to be honest, I became a firefighter to help people. And what I learned now would really, really help me if I went through rookie school again. And you could take on a different attitude or different perception. But I was pretty much, I needed this job. And that's when I started was, I needed this job. I needed to have something steady. And I always kept saying, perseverance pays off. I feel women nowadays have it a lot easier, but there's still a long way to go. We have upper management that are really there for you and want to see you succeed. We also have a need to find the younger generation and to let them know how hard it is, but that they can succeed at anything. And I know that there's been a lot of changes, and also it's a mindset. You know, women had to come in here knowing that it's going to be challenging, but knowing that they can make it. Some of the challenges that women are going to find today when they join is the strength of physicality. What it's going to really take to make themselves and their bodies a firefighter body. You have to change, and you have to be willing to take on all the extra responsibilities of the physicality of the job. And that's a mindset. You know, you have to be ready and able to do anything. The role of a firefighter, I think, has changed in a few ways. One is that the medical calls really have to be a medic, you know, and being able to strive to learn the most up and coming thing, and keeping your understanding all the medicines. Another thing that you have to really challenge yourself on is being ready to adapt to anything that's coming in. Adversity of a call. You know, I went on a call one time where we had to take our boots off in order to go in there. And, you know, you have to be willing to change. If I was to talk to a group of people sitting in a room saying, I want to become a firefighter, I would ask them why. Do you know what is involved in becoming a firefighter? Do you really understand it? I'm not trying to scare you away. I'm trying to prepare you for your future. I want you to understand the little things in the job that need to be done that nobody wants to do. And that is what is expected of you. You take on those challenges, you take on those small jobs, and you will be successful. And you need to know that you're going to be doing a lot of medical stuff. And if the medical stuff is not what you want, then you need to decide how you want to challenge yourself to become a good medic and become a firefighter, because you're becoming both. I want the Greensboro Fire Department to remember me as an outgoing person that cared a lot, that gave their all. I also would like them to remember me as trying to help them prepare for their future. Knowing their retirement, knowing their paychecks, knowing what's involved in what's coming down the road. Some people can only see one paycheck, but you need to see everything. You need to see your retirement. You want to have a good retirement. You want to be able to do a lot of stuff and work in the higher backs. I think I was called the higher back queen because I couldn't be the king because the king had too many hours over me. My message is not to one person. My message is to everybody that I have touched. We each made each other better. We came up with different ideas, and we worked it out. And you know who you are. I just want to say the Greensboro Fire Department has let me accomplish my goals of being the person that I am without these challenges, without having to persevere through some of the toughest days on the department, only made me better. And that is what keeps me going, is knowing that I made it through that, I can make it through anything. I feel coming out here and talking about being retired is something that people need to hear. Being a female on the department has changed the department's thinking to be more open-minded, to accept all people. That anybody can do this job if they put their heart and soul into it. And I just want people to know that this is a good place to be, and to do something like this is a memory for others to know what it was like. I've been watching a lot of history channels now that I'm retired and learning from what's in the past. And people need to know, and we need to keep this going.
In closing, the Greensboro Firefighters History Book Committee hopes you have gained a greater insight into the dangers, the challenges, and emotional events that have influenced and shaped the American firefighter.